Hello, this is Adam Lehman, host of Hillel's new podcast, On One Foot, learnings and commentary from today's Hillel. Famously, Hillel the Elder, our namesake, was approached by a man who said, "I will convert to Judaism if you will teach me the entire Torah while standing on one foot." Hillel responded, "Do not do that which is hateful to you, to your fellow. The rest is commentary. Now go and learn." This podcast will elevate learnings from the students, professionals, and partners using Hillel of today as their platform to drive positive change within their Jewish communities, in higher education, and in the broader world. So let's get ready to learn on one foot. Welcome to this very special edition of our new Hillel International podcast, On One Foot. Every year we host our Hillel International Global Assembly, bringing together 1,000 Hillel professionals along with some key partners and stakeholders. And I thought, what a wonderful way to kick off this podcast, hosting some of the amazing colleagues that I'm privileged to work with across our Hillel field for short conversations and special tease. There will be some discussion literally on one foot. Enjoy.
Gabe Greenberg, I'm the director of Penn Hillel.
People are opining on Jewish life on campus. Just curious to hear your take at Penn. What are you hearing from Jewish students right now in terms of, what they're thinking about, what they're passionate about, what they're maybe concerned about? Would love to hear your take.
I think high level Jewish life for students at the University of Pennsylvania is amazing. Students walk down the main walkway of Penn. It's called Locust Walk, proudly wearing their yarmulkes, proudly wearing their Stars of David, their sweatshirts that have Hebrew writing on it. They are leaders in every corner of campus. There's Jewish kids in every frat and sorority, like they're everywhere in leadership roles, doing their thing. So there's a lot of pride and a lot of joy. That is all happening and real. And it is also the case that there are still some classes and maybe a club here or there where there are either academic or social costs for fully sharing and expressing their full Jewish selves, religiously, politically especially. And we have to keep fighting that and really keep our foot on the gas in advocating for the students towards the university.
As we're talking about this issue, we're talking about University of Pennsylvania. I know I was with you pre-10/7 when we were dealing with issues, including of vandalism at the Hillel itself. And we all lived through the pain of those early months after 10/7. And yet I also know, having worked with administrators at Penn, with you, Gabe, and colleagues, so many changes that have been made. I remember Penn being one of the earliest to reform their time, place, and manner restrictions when it came to protest activity. I remember Penn taking aggressive action when it came to student enforcement. Really after that fact, we, as you said, as a movement, are laser focused on advocating for Jewish students to have full welcoming and inclusivity on campus. And it can feel quizzical or even cynical when folks are out there trying to flatten the nature of Jewish student experience on campus, and particularly if they're not talking to Jewish students in the way we are to get that holistic experience. So I'm so grateful to have you as a level-headed and strategic partner and thinker on the ground there. Speaking of which, I know you're beginning to think about civics and civic engagement as a frame for our work. And at Hillel, one of the things I think is so compelling is that we not only focus on building these vibrant, rich Jewish student communities that can feel very much of the Jewish community, but we work really hard to be a part of the broader community in a positive way. How are you thinking about the space of civics?
Thanks for asking. We've come to feel that civics as a concept encompasses three major program areas that we want to pursue. Number one is, I don't think I'm sharing a big secret. This is really, we have a deep national problem around our inability to have difficult conversations across difference with other folks. That's a major growth area. I think the Jewish community needs to grow in that. That's within the Jewish community, and that's between the Jewish community and other communities, and that is certainly just a national cultural problem. It's a problem on campus. It's a big higher ed problem. So we want to do a lot about difficult conversations. Number two, we note, certainly at Penn, that I think some 70% of undergraduates at Penn are going to go into business, finance, or consulting, which, good for them. Those are very important roles, and they're going to have some level of impact in their communities through those roles and what they do philanthropically. And I think a major lesson of the last years is we need to keep growing a pipeline of strong, smart Jewish leaders in politics, in civic roles of civic duty. And thirdly, and I know Hillel International is thinking deeply about this and acting, is bridge building. Is what does it look like to think deeply about the Latino students on campus, the Asian American students on campus, the Black students on campus, whether it's race, ethnicity, religion. How are we making sure that we are building relationships and making spaces where we can come together?
Absolutely, and building that understanding, so important in this moment, and I think for the future, and so inspiring when we think about our potential opportunity to create change makers and leaders in a very practical way when it comes to civic life, and doing it infused by real Jewish values and real Jewish learning, because that's what's happening inside the walls and beyond the walls of Penn Hillel. I should note, too, in partnership with Penn Hillel, UNCF, and Blue Square Alliance, we just hosted an awesome Black Jewish student unity dinner and discussion. So just one of many efforts we're going to be making. Delighted to have a dear colleague, Magda, who's going to share a little bit about who she is, the role she's playing within our global Hillel movement, and how you got to Hillel.
So my name is Magda Dorosz. I'm the executive director of Hillel Poland. We started almost 10 years ago in Poland with opening Hillel in Warsaw. Then we expanded to Krakow, and last year we expanded to two new cities, Łódź and Wrocław.
People often focus on our presence in the U.S. or North America, and yes, we're present on 700 campuses in North America, but we are Hillel International. We are a global movement, and in fact, part of what we accomplish is a modeling of and an actualization of what it means to have Jewish global peoplehood, and having you, your team, and Hillel Poland as part of that has been fundamental. So tell me, because you are in relationship with so many Jewish students and young adults across Poland, what's their experience in this moment?
It's very surprising to me that, and especially over the course of last 2 years, certain patterns that are happening within our Jewish world are universal. So our students, similarly like the students here in the US, are looking for options to feeling and becoming part of something larger than themselves. So the notion of belonging, the notion of having a community, and we're very lucky that we're able to provide that community and allow for the friendships to actually happen and start within the Hillel facilities that then go beyond Hillel walls, which is an extraordinary possibility, especially in the world where our students and young adults that we work with are being secluded from because of being Jewish, and because of the situation in the Middle East, when they're then blamed for whatever is going on in the Middle East. So being able to create that community is on one hand universal and also very special for us in Poland. Something that's also very strongly felt within our students is the pride and the joy of actually being Jewish and not hiding their identity, being openly and Jewish, and being very vocal in terms of supporting for the community, for the Jewish people, and for Israel. And I think that the part of looking for the joy in Poland has a much deeper meaning. If we look back at the history of what happened to the Jews in Poland and in Europe, there is a lot of trauma, there is a lot of grief, there is Shoah happened in Poland, and therefore the young adults today who are looking for that joy in their Jewish identity, in a way, we will never reverse what happened in Poland, but today to be able to create those joyous experiences in a place that comes out of such a dark history for the Jews is something very unique and something very special. And I think that this is also something that our students are looking for, and looking for the meaning for themselves within that larger Polish Jewish historical narrative.
Yeah, and it's, as I said before, just inspiring, Dayenu to have Hillel in Poland, but when you talk about having your team and your work foster that kind of Jewish joy, pride, and resilience in Poland, it is such a powerful signal relative to our entire Hillel movement, even in the context of some of the most tragic circumstances in the world. Stand straight, lean forward with joy, with pride, be grateful to be in community, in a community that does speak to who we are as individuals and as part of this global Jewish peoplehood. The world keeps changing, and not only in Israel and certainly not only in the U.S. How have changes in Europe impacted who you're serving through Hillel Poland?
Hillel Poland has changed a lot since we started 10 years ago with the Russian invasion on Ukraine and with the tremendous refugee crisis that Europe is still undergoing through. Today, there are millions of Ukrainians who found their home in Poland, among them a lot of Ukrainian young Jews who were part of Hillel in Ukraine and now are part of Hillel in Poland, or those who didn't have a chance to experience Hillel in Ukraine also found their home at our Hillels across the country. We now serve about 150 Ukrainian young adults who are part of our community day in, day out. They are integrating into the Polish society. They found their new family at our Hillel, and it's not an overstatement to say that Hillel became their family. Many of them came alone. All their families are back in Ukraine, or unfortunately have died in the conflict. So we do really become their support network. Also to incorporate the young Ukrainian adults into the work that we do was something that I'm very proud of, and I'm very honored that Hillel International actually helped us in adapting our work to the new reality.
Yeah, I mean, we're very proud of what you've been able to do on support of not only those Jewish students, but those families who have depended from the beginning on the work you're doing and the support you're providing. And, I will remind anyone listening or viewing, this is in addition to our Hillel in Ukraine that is serving 5 cities, more than 1,000 students, and has done so for almost 30 years, but certainly throughout this entire horrible war, even with 3 of those Hillel sites having been bombed and destroyed. So really I am in awe of and have gratitude for Osik Axelrod, our head of Hillel in Ukraine and that part of the world, and Magda, also to you. Great to be here with one of my awesome colleagues from the Hillel field.
I'm Craig Carroll. I'm the Springboard Ezra Jewish Education Fellow at American University Hillel.
You're part of actually a fellowship of 100 early career Jewish professionals bringing Jewish joy, connection, belonging to Jewish students across all the different campuses we serve. One of the things that we actually have as a true unique asset is these very both broad relationships with Jewish life on campus, but deep in terms of really understanding what Jewish students are seeing, feeling, and thinking about. In terms of your perch at AU, What are you seeing and hearing?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, and it's one that we think a lot about all the time, and it's exciting to kind of discover it, especially as somebody who was recently a college student. And the thing that I think I noticed the most is students really want comfort and connection and belonging, just like you said, but they don't know where to find it, and they don't know how to find it. And we know as Jewish professionals that that's something that we can help build. That's something that we can help provide for them, but they're not always looking to Jewish spaces for that. They look to Jewish spaces for tradition and ritual, and they look to Jewish spaces for knowledge and sometimes leadership, and a lot of those things allow them to make friends, to feel more confident in themselves, to feel like they have a space where they belong. But that's not what they come to college for. And so shaping that and figuring out how to say to them, we know that this is what you need and we can help you find that, is difficult because we never want to force them into a space that they're not excited about, but they really, really value it, and it's so valuable to us too, to hear from students how rewarding coming to Hillel is for them and how comfortable they feel around us, and just the joy that they get after spending a semester or a year with Hillel in their lives. And it's a really beautiful experience to provide.
Nice. And in terms of picking up on, one of the pathways or containers you described that maybe, one of the students we're serving doesn't realize that it is a pathway to Jewish joy, connection, and belonging, and yet it does serve that purpose. We're really in this period taking the challenges of the last few years and kind of flipping the script to turn that into opportunity when it comes to empowering Jewish students to lead, to build, to create. When you think about leadership in that broad conception, what do you think works?
100%. We really look for those moments where Jewish students can take a hold of their own journeys and change things in our community, because we don't know what they need. We can't read their minds. And a lot of times they tell us, oh, I wish this thing were different, or I wish we had this experience. And we really want to empower them to say, oh, I can create that, or I can start that, or I can shift that that dynamic to be more what I think my Jewish community would enjoy, which is a really beautiful thing. But our students are really busy. They're really ambitious, and now more than ever, they have so many responsibilities and so many expectations on them. And so it's really about picking up what is going to excite them the most and what is going to make them say, this is something I want to devote my time to. Not because we've told you you have to, or because there's some incentive that we're going to compensate you for doing it, but because this is a unique Jewish experience that is going to be meaningful to you and is going to create a sense of purpose for you. And that is what's going to convince them almost to say that I want to prioritize this. I want to be a leader in this community, and I want to plan this event, or I want to fulfill this role, or I want to serve on this committee. And it's so amazing to hear at the end of an experience a student say to me, I feel like people are relying on me, and not in a stressful way, in a way that makes me feel important, in a way that makes me feel like I matter. And finding that has been just a truly invaluable part of my job. It's
Wow,
really
that's such a cool description, because it's making that transition from their passion and interest onto a sense of ownership, onto an experience of empowerment where you and we are acting as Jewish leadership and creative concierges.
Exactly.
Onto like the joy and pride of impact. So really cool.
My name is Julia Cestari. I am a first-year innovation springboard at Northeastern University, based in Boston.
We were actually recording right now down the road from Northeastern. A lot of people don't realize Northeastern has become a very high priority destination for Jewish students, and this is part of a whole broader demographic shift in terms of where Jewish students are choosing to go to school. When you look at the students that you're able to be in contact with, Jewish students, through our work at Hillel, what are you seeing and what are you hearing in terms of where they're hearts, minds, and focus points are.
Yeah, definitely. I would say the first thing that comes to mind when I think about Northeastern and Jewish students as a whole is leadership. Definitely community and definitely leadership. So something really cool and interesting about Northeastern is we're very big on our co-opt. It's a huge draw-in for students. So a lot of students start off as global scholars or NUN students, and they start off abroad, whether that's in Oakland, California, in London, in 16 different other European locations. And we as staff have to immerse these students into Jewish culture regardless of where they are. And I feel like that's a really unique part of my task and my job. And the one sort of overarching theme that these students have in common is their dedication to being leaders regardless of where they are in Jewish spaces and in Jewish roles throughout the country, where there's different points of anti-Semitism or acceptance for Jews regardless of where they are in the world. But yeah, everyone's definitely looking to get involved as Jewish students.
So fascinating, because obviously Northeastern Hillel is already in contact with hundreds or even thousands of Jewish students, at its flagship campus. But to your point, you're almost like a mini Hillel International in that Northeastern itself has become this global enterprise. So you have both that challenge and opportunity of engaging and supporting students really around the world. And it doesn't surprise me that the average Jewish student at Northeastern does take, community building and leadership seriously. At a programmatic level, what's been working in that regard?
Yeah, no, definitely something that comes to mind instantly is Hillel International has given us this amazing program, Hillel Leadership Institute, which I'm co-facilitating with my supervisor, Jennifer Stone, and we've sort of embedded it into our Fish Council, our first-year students of Hillel, and we've taken these first years who are interested in getting involved and interested in making a difference on campus, and we're sort of telling them, okay, here's your mission, here's your task. We want to find new ways to get these students who are starting abroad but then coming back to Boston involved. So essentially for these students, they're almost like freshmen again when they come to Boston, because it's their first time being in Boston on campus, meeting other Jewish students. And most campuses have Fresh Fest, which is great, but we're in the process of planning a second Winter Fresh Fest for our NUN abroad students, so that when they come back, they have this sort of second opportunity to immerse themselves in the Jewish and Hillel culture. So something that's been working is I've sort of tasked my Fish Council with coming up with new ways and initiatives to immerse students. We're coming up with some great ideas still on the horizon, but that's definitely something that comes to mind.
Very cool. And again, so both unique to the Northeastern structure and experience, but I think in terms of the future of higher education, we're likely to see more of these global university footprints. And so what you're doing and the team is doing to figure out how you create durable and connected Jewish community for students who are moving from campus to campus will actually become a best practice we can deploy for these other global universities that are emerging. I am here with Zander. I'm very excited to have Zander as a colleague and as one of the inaugural guests on the On One Foot podcast.
My name's Zander, and I'm the IACT at University of Miami Hillel.
By the way, I think for anyone taking this in, IACT may be like, what does that mean? So
Sure.
Can you briefly describe what an IACT actually does within a Hillel?
Sure. Well, IACT is an acronym, obviously inspired, achieve, committed, transform, but really we're the Israel coordinators and mainly the main go-to person for birthright recruitment and staffing on about 30 of our campuses that we have.
Fantastic. And when you think about your own motivation in creating opportunities for Jewish students to travel to Israel and then to build on their Jewish journeys coming back, what is that for you?
Well, for me, and the reason I do what I do and why I find so much joy in it, is I know for me what my first trip to Israel did for myself and for my own Jewish identity. And I was fortunate enough after I graduated college to spend about a year in Israel on a Masa program. And that was a very transformative experience for me. I was there over October 7th and months following. I participated in a Hillel fellowship with some Hillel colleagues of mine, Esther and Esti, who really showed me what it was going to be like to work for Hillel and to work for a Jewish organization. So when I found out that there was a job available to make a positive impact on a Jewish community on a college campus, especially in the climate that we have today, I kind of jumped at that opportunity. And especially when my job focuses around bringing people to Israel, building relationship with people, and having a positive Jewish community, it's really, I say, the best job in the world.
Amazing. And we really are privileged at Hillel to have a truly comprehensive view of Jewish students on campus because of our presence and also because of the way we do our work, which is relationship-based. I'd love to hear from your point of view for Jewish students at the U down at Coral Gables. What are they thinking about? What are they prioritizing when it comes to their Jewish identities and Jewish life?
Well, we're fortunate enough to have some of the brightest and the best students at University of Miami. And it's a very much a work hard but also a play hard type of school. And I think that goes down to the parties, the academics, and also the Jewish life on campus. And so whether we're having 100-person plus Shabbat dinners every week, or we're having our large Israel programs, we just had a huge Night in the Shuk event at our AEPI, you name it, and we have Jewish engagement when it comes to that. And I think we can go in and talk a lot bit about what it's like to be a Jewish person at the University of Miami today. But I really think we're seeing more and more a lot of students come down to Florida and come down to University of Miami and be proud to be Jewish. And so it's great to be part of that amazing community.
Yeah, it sure is. And we know that there have been a lot of challenges on various campuses for Jewish students when it comes to their ability to express and explore their Jewish identity with pride and with resilience, and even relative to your work as an IACT, in terms of how they can engage with Israel on their own terms, not based on someone else's political views or views of what the role of Israel is or should be when it comes to global Jewish people and Jewish identity, but in terms of how they want to understand and engage holistically. So knowing some of those challenges as they've played out, on campuses across the country and really around the globe, what has the campus climate for Jewish students been like at University of Miami? And, in terms of how you see it, why do you think it is the way it is?
It's a great question. I really believe, and we're very fortunate, that somewhat we are in our own bubble down in South Florida. But I think it has a lot to do with the work we're doing on the ground, the work our Hillel in particular does with our university. We have tremendous, tremendous support and a great relationship with the university. And they really prioritize protecting Jewish students and making sure we feel safe. We're about 20% Jewish at University of Miami. And whenever I go on campus, I'm seeing Stars of David, I'm seeing Israel flags. I table on campus, obviously, to promote birthright. And we never have any issues, which is very fortunate. I think more and more people see that and people feel confident enough. And obviously there's a large amount of Israeli and Israeli families that live in the Miami surrounding areas. And I think all of those factors combined, on top of having a lot of Israel programming and large birthright trips, all leads to the same result of a positive pro-Israel and proud Jewish community.
Yeah, no, it really is a very positive climate, not only for Jewish students, but I find for all students when I'm on that campus in Coral Gables. I was able to spend time with the previous president, Julio Frank, and members of his administration, and I was so impressed by both their commitment to creating robust dialogue and education and space for people of all perspectives, but doing it in an environment that promoted welcoming, safety, community values for all students, including Jewish students. So I'm glad that continues to be the case. I'm privileged to be with one of our newer colleagues in the Hillel movement, Rabbi Sam.
My name's Rabbi Sam Weiss. I'm the egalitarian rabbi and senior Jewish educator at Brown RISD Hillel.
Yeah, I got to be up with Rabbi Sam and his colleagues a few weeks ago celebrating the 130th anniversary of Jewish life at Brown, which was a terrific program where, fortunately, as Hillel, we got to play many different roles. But you're new on the scene, relatively speaking, 6 months. So really an interesting opportunity to share in a fresh way, not as shaped by, the last couple of years, but in terms of even just the first semester at Brown and RISD, Rhode Island School of Design. What's the vibe in terms of students What are they thinking about? What are they sharing with you? What are you seeing when you look at the experience of Jewish students at those schools right now?
Yeah, I see students that are passionate about Jewish life, who are eager to connect, maybe even especially eager to connect across difference. Students who are hungry to understand one another and better sort of wrap their heads and their hearts around the breadth of Jewish experience, the many ways that expresses itself in America and in Israel and elsewhere. I see students who are excited to build new things, be it new communities or new rituals or new ways to engage with our culture. I think especially a student who's hard at work putting together a Jewish American comedy film series for the spring semester. And I see students who are happy to be together and who are excited to bring new students into the fold. So
that's great. Now, and that's certainly what I saw when I was there, even just a few weeks ago, which was heartening and inspiring. Actually, I actually stuck around for a Kabbalat Shabbat service, where fully student-led, of course, and the place was packed, and the singing, the ruach, was really through the roof, and I appreciated it. As I also appreciated this really unique Jewish arts program, which you can see walking around the Brown RISD Hillel. So really an interesting space you guys have all created. Now, one of the core elements of our work at Hillel is bringing our pluralistic brand of Jewish learning to the students we're serving in those communities. It sounds like you've already been through one semester of leading our Jewish Learning Fellowship course. What was that like? And can you share which, our curriculum actually now spans a lot of different content areas. Which version of JLF did you teach, and what was the experience like?
I taught Life's Big Questions with our Springboard Fellow, Addie Gordon, and she and I just had such fun. It was such a privilege to bring together, ultimately, it was 19 or 20 students from just such, from such incredibly diverse Jewish backgrounds, some of whom had a day school background, some of whom fought hard to study for a bat mitzvah, at 17 in one case. COVID derailed a lot of the normal trajectory of Jewish childhood for a lot of our students, and so. Just such an extraordinarily diverse group coming together to. Get down to the root of the matter, to the big questions that animate our lives and that animate our tradition. The Jewish answers are only as useful as they are attached to deep and real human questions. So it was a fantastic experience, and the learning was good. The learning was even great sometimes. But to watch these students eat together and enjoy one another and want to know one another. Many of them will be together, for 4 more. They have 3.5 years ahead of them to deepen the relationship that the relationships that began in JLF. So that was probably the most thrilling aspect to me.
Yeah, and it's cool the way we built that JLF. There are now enough different versions. They literally could spend the next 3.5 years also continuing as a cohort to do JLF, and/or they'll branch off into other ways that they build relationships and stay involved. Hopefully in Jewish life. JLF is a text-based approach to Jewish learning with Talmudic sources, Torah sources, and other sources. Did you find students engaging deeply at a text-based level?
Yes. Yeah, very deeply. In fact, the main challenge was to help them to move from source number 1 to source number 2 or 3. The worry as an educator is they're going to zoom through and they're going to be they're going to sit there twiddling their thumbs and wondering what's next. But they just they're hungry. They're hungry for meaning. They're hungry for a rich and deep engagement with our tradition, with our history, and so yeah.
Amazing. I am here now with Rabbi Jessica Kirschner.
I have been the executive director of Hillel at Stanford for the last 8 years.
With your vantage point at Stanford, I'd just love to hear your take on what Jewish students at Stanford are thinking about in this moment, maybe what their experiences are, concerns, or otherwise.
I think Jewish students come to Stanford historically, not necessarily thinking that they are looking for a Jewish experience as their first reason for being there. I think they're coming to Stanford to be at Stanford. And Stanford's amazing in that way. And along the way, many students discover, oh, I actually have like significant Jewish needs. This is an important part of my life. They're doing the whole adulting thing that people in their late teens and early 20s are doing, just figuring out who am I and what I want to be in the world, and what is this Jewish heritage that is part of me, but maybe I haven't fully figured out, or certainly haven't figured out separate from the family that I grew up in, but what does it mean for me? And I think college has always been an amazing sort of life cycle moment for American Jews. And I love that Hillel actually takes that seriously and says, you're on a really interesting journey. We want to walk with you on that journey. We don't have a preconceived notion for like the kind of Jew you need to be at the other side of that, but we do feel strongly that it should be important to you in the ways that matter to you, and we want to create as many paths of entry as possible for you to find meaning and connection to your Jewish life. So our mission on campus is to be at the intersection of Jewish and Stanford as much as possible. And so there are the students who sort of want to come in for the whole package and wear that identity, and a big part of their time on campus is explicitly Jewish. And then there are other students who want to weave it in to the other Stanford-y things they're doing. And I love that we are a Hillel that sort of does both of those things simultaneously.
Yeah, you just described it so beautifully. Like, we are creating a thickness to how Jewish students can deepen their own Jewish experience and identity, but then absolutely the concierge of service and support and hopefully inspiration as they take that into their other areas of passion around campus. We are also unapologetically pluralistic in terms of our philosophy, in terms of even our talkless approach, practical approach to how we weave together Jewish student communities. As someone who has been a practitioner and thought leader in this area, how do you define our pluralism in this period?
So let me tell you a Hillel story, which is, I think, a good story, but maybe could be disputed. When I was a student leader at Hillel, I was an undergrad at UC Berkeley and grew up as sort of like a poster child of the reform movement. It's youth movements, it's camps, all these things. Like, I loved being a Reform Jew. I still feel really lucky, sort of philosophically, to have been born into a movement that makes sense to me on all kinds of levels. So I feel really grateful for that and for the opportunities that were afforded there. And as a kid growing up in that movement, when I said as a 10-year-old, hey, I want to be a rabbi, everyone in my world gave me a green light on that and said, yeah, that would be great for you. And it was an amazing contrast in some ways from the experience I was having in my public school in Oakland, California, where I was like the bossy, loud, know-it-all girl. In my Jewish spaces, I was a leader. So I found Judaism in general and Reform Judaism and its institutions in particular like incredibly affirming and wonderful. And then I got to Hillel as a college student and felt supported in that identity, and also challenged really for the first time, being in a relationship with Jews from other denominations and other spaces who had not just a different conception of Judaism, but it was the first time I'd ever encountered Jews who thought my way of being Jewish was wrong or bad. And that like blew my mind. Like, everyone in my world was Jewish the way I was Jewish, and so it was sort of mind-boggling to suddenly meet other Jewish people who were like, oh no, you're doing it wrong. Have to learn how to do the sacred stretch of that, of like, I'm going to make space for you, and I'm to do something that like I actually don't like in my personal observance. And you are going to need to make space for me to do and be the things that are important in my Jewish ideas and observance, but are not comfortable for you. Like, I first learned how to do that as a student at Hillel. And what I try to teach students now all the time is we talk about this sort of sacred stretch of you need to feel respected in our Hillel. You need to feel respected as the Jewish person that you are, and you need to have the resources to activate that Judaism in ways that are meaningful to you, and you need to feel that respect from us as a staff and from other students all the time. We have so many students who are coming to campus with lighter and looser Jewish identities, who care about being Jewish, who are proud of being Jewish, but don't have a ton of depth to that experience. And college is a time of exploration and learning, so it is such an opportunity for a great deepening. But when they come into a space and they feel like everyone else already knows the tunes, the
Right.
rules, the unspoken codes, and I don't, like, is this really for me? And we as a staff team, and we try to teach students to do this too, say like, yes, it is really for you, like, come in. And don't come in because we want to change you, but because we want you to help you to figure out, we want to help you figure out how to be the fullest Jewish you that you want to be. And getting all those students to live together in one little community is really fascinating and hard and wonderful.
But yeah, I think about pluralism and the fact pluralism is hard. Jewish pluralism is hard, and that's why we do it. Because someone in the Jewish world has to carry that mantle in terms of both creating that very rich tapestry you're describing, where there isn't one right approach to how one develops themselves Jewishly or one correct Jewish journey. And within it, though, there is really not only ample but inspiring space to progress. And I really believe that in the long term, it's a critical strategy, whether through Hillel or more broadly, for our Jewish community to create those spaces, sustain those spaces, and really allow Judaism to flourish in that multiplicity of ways, and yet in a space that feels communal, feels integrated. We've seen what can happen with Sinat Chinam, and when actually it becomes only about your way, and in fact, denigrating or even destabilizing the other ways. We very much are the opposite in terms of what we're trying to accomplish, and God willing, we'll get there. All right, well, given our brand here, On One Foot, for this podcast, I am going to now go on with foot. I will invite you to do the same, and I'll ask you a question, and you'll share the entire Torah of that question while we stand on one foot. All right, here we go. I'm up
I also
on
have
one.
to stand on one foot.
If you choose, yes, I'd like that. So, listen, you are at a serious sports school. If you had to predict which University of Miami team, which Hurricane team is going to win a national championship next, who's it going to be?
It hurts me to say this because I am an Ohio State fan, but I have to say I think the Canes have a really good chance at beating Texas Tech next week, and then going on to maybe, with a miracle, maybe beating Ohio State. Can't believe I'm saying this live. I can't believe I'm saying this live.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't show this to my family.
No, I won't. And what I will say is OH.
I.O.
Yeah. Buckeye fan here, too. But I love, listen, we're all right, I'm going off one foot because my right side is definitely weaker. The reality is at Hillel, we care about pluralism, we care about candor. So the fact that you can say, being a Buckeye fan, that it actually could be the Hurricanes here, that's bold. Who is your favorite Jewish musician today?
Rabbi Deborah Sachs-Mintz, super nerdy answer. She was just on our campus and she led a song circle, and it was really, really awesome. And it was just a beautiful moment of Jewish communal song, and it was really, really cool. Check her out.
All right, thanks for sharing that Torah of Jewish music on one foot.
Tell me when you start standing on
I'm
one
standing
foot.
now.
Oh boy, all
okay,
right,
I'm here.
ready.
I'm here.
Okay.
So I've discovered that we're both Jewish a cappella aficionados and fans, and so within what is a broad universe of the Torah of Jewish a cappella, who is your favorite Jewish a cappella group? And it can't be at Franklin and Marshall where you sang.
Okay, I will not say the Puritchers at Franklin and Marshall. It has to be Jewish favorite a cappella group.
Yeah, favorite Jewish a cappella group.
I wonder, do the Maccabees count as that?
They totally do. You can go with
I'm going
Maccabees.
to go with Maccabees. It's basic, but I'm going to go strong and solid with my answer.
I think it's a
classic.
Classic.
You can't go wrong.
Yeah, and a lot to find on YouTube for those listening.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm going to count this as my leg day.
It's definitely, yeah, and I got to tell you, doing this repetitively, I really have to hit the gym more.
Yeah.
So, guys don't always talk about fashion so overtly, but I do want to talk about you as a
Thank you.
Hillel fashionista.
Thank you.
Is there a clothing brand that you're into? Because one of the beauties of working at Hillel is we're not always suiting up. So yeah, what's your current jam?
My wife would laugh and then cry and then laugh again if she heard you refer to me as a fashionista. I believe this shirt is Faherty, which is a national chain, which I've gotten into. Look, I'm going to talk about an issue which is very deeply important to me in the winter, which is keeping my feet warm. So I'm going to answer also with another big a chain, which is I treat myself to Patagonia socks, which are functional, warm, but they look good, Adam.
Yeah.
All right.
Now I get it. And I just bought like a set of amazing socks, blanking on the name now, with a B, Bombas.
Yes.
So socks matter a lot. And I just recently bought a Faraday thing. They're a little pricey. By the way, like
Treat yourself, Adam.
There's a reason I'm back down on 2 feet. There's a reason that the Hillel proverb lived on, because in a way that was sustainable. He kept that answer really short. I think, we're learning the lesson
Yes.
of brevity.
Talking the talk.
Yeah, and
walking
let the
walk.
rest be kind of learning and commentary. I am up. Are you on 1 foot?
Yes, I
Okay. So, being in Poland, can you either share a place in Poland that you really love and enjoy that others might not be familiar with, or can you share another European city that's your favorite? Pick one or the other.
So I'll share a city in Poland, a city that's not really well known to international audience. It's the city of Wrocław, where I'm from, which is one of the hidden gems of Poland, located on the southern border of Poland. A really beautiful city, a very colorful city, and very undiscovered city.
So, you're out in California. Keep it a little light for us. What is one show, could be Jewish themed or otherwise, that's like your jam in this period?
I've been watching lately only Murders in the Building,
Okay.
which I fell behind but have now caught up on. But my heart has returned to the West Wing.
Oh, yeah, and there's a lot of West Wing going back on 2 feet. Echoes happening right now. I was just watching The Diplomat, and without giving anything away, there are West Wingy characters
totally.
who reemerge. And then now I'm watching James Garfield's story, where again, you've got some former characters from the West Wing. So West Wing is definitely having a resurgence. Someone told me a rumor that you have some relationship back to punk. Can you share what that entails?
I played in punk bands for many years. Sort of actually instead of going to college. So my Hillel was a dank rehearsal space.
First of all, I'd love for you to share a punk playlist,
Okay.
so I can check that out. And two, what a fascinating personal story. And at another time, I'd love to hear the connection points in terms of going from that world and really kind of that way of engaging and expressing spiritual, emotional, creative impulses into how you're translating that through now.
I should say it's not from one world to the other. I think each of us contains we can keep a foot in multiple many worlds, and I'm certainly a product of many different communities that I've been a part of over time.
Amen. That so beautifully speaks to so much of what we try to accomplish at Hillel, and why even as at times being on 1 foot is good, having multiple feet in multiple worlds and worldviews is really powerful too.